Hi everyone, just making sure that I'm live before I start my little video. There we are. We have confirmation I am live. Hi everyone. In the middle of this pandemic that we are in at the moment, I hope you're all staying safe. Something quite big happened about the 8th of March because America had a bit of a falling out with several countries recently, as you've probably heard, and Saudi Arabia and Russia started overproducing oil, and that was on the 8th of March, I think it was. And as a result of it, oil has collapsed down to less than $30 a barrel. I think it's actually gone up a little bit since then, but it's collapsed from where it was, and this is a big problem for the United States. I'm talking about the petrodollar, of course. Petrodollar, for those of you who don't know, the way the United States keeps its reserve currency. This is from RT. The US shale market is to bear the brunt of the raging oil price war that has sent the Dow Jones crude prices down, and Saudi Arabia will fare no better. Meanwhile, Russia has got the best hand in the game, Max Kaiser believes. I'll come to that in a second. But for those of you who don't know, early 1970s, 1971, the United States fully came off the Bretton Woods. I think it was started back in the 1930s by FDR. But they came off the gold standard, and the dollar was attached to the price of gold at a fixed rate of $35 an ounce, I think it was. And after that, they came off it, and they did a deal with Saudi Arabia in that Saudi Arabia, being the largest exporter of oil around the world, would only sell their oil in dollars. This influx of dollars is the Keynesian way of keeping your hegemony and keeping your money afloat and keeping it the world's reserve standard, with the world's reserve currency. You flood the market with money, and that's basically what they've been doing ever since. However, the falling out with Saudi Arabia has put a stop to that, and this price war between them and Russia is really driving down the price of oil. And American oil, which they brag about that they don't need anybody else's oil now because they're self-dependent on it, it makes it uncompetitive because they got shale oil. Makes other countries' oil uncompetitive as well, such as Venezuela. They will not come out of this well. I'll continue this with this article though. There are several causes for the slump in oil prices, this article from RT says, and the dispute between Moscow and Riyadh led OPEC and the coronavirus outbreak is not an exhaustive list, the host of RT's Kaiser report believes. We are also witnessing part 2 of the 2008 crisis, with the credit bubble blowing up again, something that was only waiting to happen, per Kaiser. Quote, if you give the same bad guys a bigger credit line to do the same bad things, that will result in the same bad outcome. In fact, it's going to be quite worse. I've documented how the richest people since 2008 are the people that have profited the most from the financial crash, while it's the poorest and middle class that have had to pay for that financial crash with punishing measures of austerity that have killed 130,000 people in this country, per a report that I saw, and countless in America. This explains it a little bit more, in case I haven't explained it enough. China and Russia have been furiously signing energy deals. The most obvious is the $456 billion gas deal that the Russian Gazprom signed with China in May. Recent trade deals and high-level cooperation between Russia and China have set up alarm bells in the West as policymakers and oil and gas executives watch the balance of power in global energy markets shift to the East. The reasons for the cozier relationship between the two giant powers are, of course, rooted in the Ukraine crisis and subsequent Western sanctions against Russia, combined with China's need to secure long-term energy supplies. So the sanctions on Russia, they're saying in this article, have forced them to create an alliance with China, which has led to the downfall of the dollar being the world's reserve currency, or at least it will if they come off the petrodollar, which it looks like it happened on the 8th. However, a consequence of closer economic ties between Russia and China could also mean the beginning of the end of the dominance for the US dollar, and that could have profound impact on energy markets. The reason I picked this article is because it explains things in a little bit of detail rather than me waffling on about it. Before the 20th century, the value of money was tied to gold. Banks that lent money were constrained by the amount of their gold reserves. One of the reasons, by the way, America had to come off the gold standard was because they were just printing money and then didn't have the gold in the bank to do it. That's one of the reasons. You know, people were saying, okay, I'll have my gold now, and the Federal Reserve was like, no, we haven't got it. The Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 established a system of exchange rates that allowed governments to sell their gold to the US Treasury, but in 1971, US President Richard Nixon took the country off the gold standard, which formally ended the linkage between the world's major currencies and gold. The US dollar then went through a massive devaluation, and oil played a crucial role in propping it back up. Nixon negotiated a deal with Saudi Arabia, whereby in exchange for arms and protection, the Saudis would denominate all future sales of oil in US dollars. Other OPEC members agreed to similar deals, ensuring perpetual global demand for greenbacks. The dominance of the US petrodollar continues to this day. Well, not anymore, apparently. The petrodollar, I have done a video before basically saying and explaining that the petrodollar is the cause of most wars around the world at the moment, certainly the ones that the United States are in. If you look at just the wars that the United States have been in, you know, since 2000, or the countries that they're trying to overthrow in regime change wars in 2000, most of them undercover with the CIA. You've got Iraq, of course. Iraq wanted to come off the petrodollar and go on their own currency. I think they wanted to do it in euros. The United States invaded them. Iran want to come off the dollar. It was a couple of years ago. I reported that, and all of a sudden we've got false flag in Syria, and obviously they've been pushing for war with Iran for a long time. I mentioned Syria there. Syria wanted to come off the petrodollar. I think they did actually, in buying it in euros. Syria, a big producer of oil. America trying to overthrow them in a well-documented regime change war. Then you got Libya. Libya wanted to come off the Gaddafi, had plans to come off the dollar, and I think it was a dinar, a gold-backed dinar he wanted to introduce. They overthrew him. And of course Venezuela, they wanted to come off the dollar as well, sell their oil in something other than dollars, and we know all about their regime change attempts in Venezuela. It's all to do with the dollar. It's all to do with the petrodollar. It isn't the only thing, it isn't the only driver behind it, but it's a major factor. And it looks like it's done. There's a couple of things I want to talk about here. First of all, Saudi Arabia are panicking. This is an act of panic, pure panic by Saudi Arabia in overproducing this oil. And I don't see a good future for the regime in Saudi Arabia. I really don't. And I'm looking forward to a time when the people of that country, the oppressed people, their lives are a little bit more freer than they are now under that regime. I will not cry any tears for Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman. Hopefully, this end of the petrodollar, if that's what we are witnessing, it certainly looks like it is. From all the experts are saying, yeah, this is the end of the petrodollar. It looks like this might be the thing that is the catalyst to stop the wars, or it could increase them. We don't know yet. One thing's for certain. If they come off the petrodollar, and if people start selling their oil, if Saudi Arabia starts selling oil in something other than dollars, the days of the dollar being the global reserve currency are coming to an end. And if the days of the dollar as the global reserve currency are coming to an end, the question you've got to ask is, what's going to replace it? Leave your answer to that question in the comments. It'll be interesting to see what you say. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. I've tried to explain this as best as I can. To be honest, I think I'm going a little bit stir crazy because of isolation at the moment. I shall try and do better next time. My next video. I'll see you later, everybody. I'll be back. Take care. Bye bye, Petrodollar.